Ready, go ahead. Nice job.
So there's no music over this part, so I'll go ahead and narrate. I took some clips of you doing your thing for introduction on my end. This is Gavin Mehl. He has a YouTube page and he does exclusive interviews. He also shares about all types of topics, including health and exercise, economics, life in general. Yeah. Here he is on the road doing his blogging. Yep. And then, oh, my favorite. The health and exercise.
Gotta show off the aesthetics for sure.
Oh yeah. And then here's the end here. And then I've given a couple of clips of some things that I've been doing. So since I've seen you last, do you know Richard Grove?
Richard Grove?
Yeah, he's an influencer. He's got a school. Did you say yes or no?
No.
Oh, okay. Well, he was a 9/11 whistleblower. He's also a historian, and he's got like a school for media production. So I've been doing all kinds of these little projects for the media production school. I hosted the Christmas party, been learning how to edit, doing some podcasting. So here's some clips of just some of the stuff I've put together in the last few weeks for the school. Lots of exercises. Oh, I've also been making tutorials, like how to use some of the editing software and things like that. So I've been putting together little class tutorials. So I will about done here. There's Richard Grove there. You might look familiar. It's been a great program. And I will stop my share here. There we go.
Nice job.
Thank you.
So how did we meet, Shanna? I can't, it's been a minute.
We met because you came and rescued me. Let's see, do I have it? Oh, maybe I don't have it. Okay, so we met because your dad knows a good friend of mine, Marshall Jenkins. And Marshall told your dad about my predicament at the time. I had just become a single mom and I was out of work and I didn't have a car and I was pretty desperate, and word got back to you. You gave me a call and you showed up at my door and offered me some professional advice. And you drove me down to Oakland. Yeah, you took me in your car. You drove me to Oakland. Thank you so much.
Oh my goodness!
Yeah, you went the extra mile for me. I'm gonna cry.
This is a memory. I almost forgot about this. It's right, exactly what happened. Now I remember.
Yeah. You drove me to Oakland and you helped me to lease a car for Uber and got me on the program, showed me the basic ropes, and then you set me free. And I have been an autonomous and independent individual ever since.
Nice.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, it sounds like a success story.
Yeah. So thank you so much for helping damsels in distress. I couldn't thank you enough. You really turned my life around at that point. And then I was featured in an overseas news magazine from Austria called News. And they came over and did a feature on Uber drivers in the US. It was the end of 2016. And I invited you over to meet with the I remember with the reporters. And we met up downtown.
We were there in like the Marina District or something. Yeah. I think it was, yeah.
Yeah, we went and had lunch and they were able, because I wasn't like a super professional like you were. So I kind of was like, oh, here, meet my friend Gavin. He'll answer your questions. So we hung out with them for the day and had a good time. And I think we even met up with Jermaine Ellis. He was another Uber driver.
Yes, that's right. Yep. Good memory.
Talked about influencing and had a good time. So now we're years away. I haven't really looked you up since. But I see that oh, you know what it was? I had to jump on Facebook for another project and I saw you come up on Facebook, which I see that you're on several platforms. You're very active, posting almost every day. And you had a link to your YouTube video and you were talking about Bitcoin and Bitcoin SV, which I'm loosely still interested in. I haven't really done any study in a long time, but it's definitely on my mind and something I want to learn more about. And I was thinking to myself, because I'm doing interviews for my school, and I don't like have a podcast or any big ambitions, but I really have fun talking to people and interviewing people. And so I was like, oh, I know Gavin, he would totally give me an interview, and I got to call him. The next video you did, you were like, if anybody wants to interview me, give me a call. And I was like, thank you.
Yes, that's right.
So then I gave you a text, and here we are.
Here we are.
Yeah. So anyway, I saw you talking about what really caught my mind and thought I got to talk to this guy was you were talking about Craig Wright. And now here's a disclaimer. I haven't even touched or looked at cryptocurrency in a couple of years now. So I'm not up on the main things. I'm not into all the lingo. So I'll be very blonde in some of my questions. But when I heard you mention Craig Wright, I'm like, Craig Wright, he's full of shit, right? And so I started really thinking about, because I loved you were talking about what's coming up with the signatures and how he may pull a fast one, and this could be like this epic thing that he pulls out of the box and the timing and all that. And so I really started to think about it in a new way. And I was like, why did I think that Craig Wright was full of shit? And but I have no idea. I don't remember any of the study that I did that led me to that conclusion. So I have a bunch of misconceptions or preconceived ideas that are completely based on bias. Most of it I couldn't even source at this point because so many years have gone by. So I thought, Gavin's really intelligent about what he's talking about. I really appreciate that you take a look at the legal documents and that you have a general understanding of the court cases that are going on. And because for me, if I was going to talk to somebody and accept their input or opinion, I would want to know that there's somebody who does their homework, who goes the extra mile, and who works and lives within the medium that they're talking about all the time. And I can vouch for you personally that's you. So.
Thank you very much. Well, it seems like you want to know more about like what the conclusion as to why you mentioned that you believe that Craig Wright was a fraud, but you weren't sure why.
Right.
Is that what you said?
Yeah. So when I really thought about it, it turned out that it just is a biased opinion left over from things that I heard about back in the day when I was into the crypto world. And so I couldn't even sort, like I even looked up a few people, the influencers that I used to listen to, try to like, where was this opinion come from that he just rubbed me the wrong way or I didn't like his attitude. But then so I examined my bias and found that I couldn't really source it, and I had I had nothing to go on. And then so really it came down to like maybe I just didn't like his attitude or the look on his face. And I thought about how I don't like my own attitude after being misunderstood for a long time. I thought there might be other things at play. And especially as I matured, I started to learn that a lot of things it's not just because I heard a lot of people say, well, why doesn't he just produce the Genesis block and then it's all over? And now that I'm older and have been through some things, I can see that there are very specific timings to things going on in the world. And you made a really great case in one of your interviews about how how he might be using the court cases, or the court cases might be a situation to where there may be an unveiling. So I'll let you, obviously I didn't do too much homework on that. I'll let you go ahead and sum up, what maybe that story is about.
Well, it seems like, okay, just to try to put some perspective here with what's going on, it's probably important to note that I really hope that I don't come off as biased one way or the other. Okay, because it's really not about that for me. I'm not paid by anybody on either side. All right, so it's not but it really is more of about a truth, seeking the truth, and what is going to be best for us going forward, like as the people of this state, in this state, what is going to be best for us in my limited perspective. So, and that is definitely not in a financial or cryptocurrency trading perspective, because I don't know about that. I'm not a crypto trader. I don't know about the charts. I've tried that. It's just not my thing, so, But when it comes to the actual, I would say more of a strategy, that is one of my gifts. I can comprehend strategy. I would say a high, humbly speaking, I would say I'm a very highly experienced expert strategist. And that comes to, from a lot of experience and looking at these things from different angles. And so I'm trying to put myself in the shoes of these parties as to what the strategy is and what's going on. And of course, so that I can benefit, of course, because I don't want to be scammed. I've had enough scams, I mean, I was just a little background here. The last scam, and I use the word scam very lightly because, it's not fair to say something is a scam unless the courts determined it. It really isn't. And so Terra Luna was determined a scam by the SEC earlier or later in 2023. So that was the last scam that I was, victim of. $40,000 in a day, basically a day gone. Yeah, 40,000. So when that happened, I mean, I had had a lot of other things before I fell for, but that was like the last time I said, I will never be another. I'm not going to go for this ever again. I'm done with this. It's just, I hate losing it. I hate it so much. And so when that happened, I just I'd already been very committed to like seeking the truth in this whole area. But at that point, I was already immersed with the people on the inside of Bitcoin. I was already immersed with them, like shoulder to shoulder. I know them personally, Xiaowei Lu from SCRIP and these guys that are actually developing on chain. So, and they all laughed, and I told them about what happened. I told Xiaowei what happened, and he laughed. Everybody laughed about how I got scammed in Luna at the time. And, it literally was just, I laughed about it. I'm glad it happened. And it hardened me to know that I will never, ever, ever fall for another scam. So, that's hopefully a little bit of a disclaimer and a background as to where we are right now. Now, this message hopefully can give people like perspective on what's going on in this whole space. I mean, is that seem like what you want to learn about? You want to know? Okay, so basically, it sounds like for you, Shanna, you haven't dove deep like into the entire all this space in the last couple of years, really deep on it. And
Correct.
Okay, so. If you go back in time to around 2015 when Ethereum started, and that time frame, the Vitalik, he believed, like a lot of other really smart people, that Bitcoin was broken. So they started building alt chains, and capitalism is favored by Bitcoin people and all together. So that is applauded, to always be capitalist mindset. So there's nothing wrong with that, but.
And smart and programmable access was a big need. Smart contracts was a big need.
It was a big need. And so they had, at that time, the BTC chain had completely been handicapped. So it wasn't able to, the blocks couldn't grow. And so that officially went to the war.
It wasn't scalable is what you're saying, right? It wasn't scalable for the amount of people that were coming in.
It wasn't scalable to infinity. It was only allowed 1 megabyte block. Yeah, so that prevented the growth, and also it prevented the people who wanted to build things and develop onto it, these developers, from utilizing it to its full potential. So a guy like that, he's like, well, let me just start my own thing. So we'll make it much more usable and scalable, and that was the purpose of it at the time. Of course. Around 2017, that was really my first exposure was more Ethereum than Bitcoin. I thought that I missed the boat on the early I heard about it. It's like, but I really kind of felt like I missed the boat on that. It was more about, all right, let's learn this Ethereum thing and master it. And it was around 2017, I was doing all the ICOs and just like anybody else trying to make money online with ICOs, just thinking, okay. And I'm at that time, and then in hindsight, that was a very scarcity mindset, trying to take money from other people in a Ponzi scheme. Like that was really I look back on it like, wow, that was a time in my life. I didn't really understand what I was doing at that time, but it was what it was. And so the smart.
Well, we thought a rising tide would lift all ships.
Yeah. Who would have thought that it was? Yeah. It's So around that time, is the gas fee started getting expensive. And I was like, okay, there's definitely a problem here. I need to figure something else out because I can't send the Ethereum back and forth without paying a huge amount of gas fees. So that's when I was like, all right, well, I got to figure something else out. I really started looking at Bitcoin closely. And so, they had the Bitcoin fork. Ryan X. Charles was in San Francisco at the time doing videos on it, going through all the what was happening and reporting on it. It made a lot of sense with the Bitcoin Cash fork, going it back to the original white paper. So I was like, all right, I just went pretty much all in at that point on Bitcoin Cash. I was like, okay, I'm done with this other things. I'm not going to, it's too expensive to transact on Ethereum and all this stuff.
Right.
I just want to be, something safe. I don't want to be in a scam again. So I was like, oh, great, Bitcoin Cash. Then I literally just tuned out for a minute. I was like, let me just let this kind of go. I don't really want to be in trading. I just want to sit back and do what I'm doing. And then they did another split where it's called, it's talked about that big BSV split, but actually in hindsight, that I can talk about that in a minute, but in hindsight, that didn't actually happen. It's really kind of a technical thing, but what looks like is that, so then that another project, they called it Bitcoin Satoshi Vision started. So that was in 2018. And at that point I followed it. I more read about the court case with the Kleiman case that was starting at that time. And I was like, this is going to be interesting to see how this all plays out, because anybody holding Bitcoin Cash, they automatically got those two. So I was like, oh, we'll see how it plays out. I was basically holding equal amounts at that point, so then, it started really getting more interesting. And there was just a big debate between the two projects. And so all the legal stuff started happening back and forth. And, it really got super, super confusing at that point. Like, what is really going on because of this? So it wasn't until literally it wasn't until around 20, I don't know, a few years later, whatever it was, that I decided to meet. I was like, you know what, if I'm going to be serious about this, I need to meet people. Who's behind what, who's who, and so I just like, they were having an event in Silicon Valley. So I went and met Jimmy Nguyen and Xiaowei Liu and some of these guys. Like, he was the president of the BSV Bitcoin Association. Met him and a bunch of people. I was like, okay, let me talk to these guys. And then I went to an event in Dubai and I met Craig Wright. I met these guys who were there at the time. Then I went to another event in London. I was like, this is really something. Like, this is not a hobby project. This is clearly a big, giant enterprise blockchain with massive scaling ability. This is
BSV you're talking about, right? Okay.
This is a huge venture, a massive undertaking, and it's not company based. The company is Bitcoin. So everybody's involved in the company of Bitcoin, but it's not, but there's all these enterprise companies like involved, whether they're running a business or they're building something on the blockchain, or they want to, build a ways to track data. And none of it was about crypto trading. Not one person talked about crypto trading, which was like a huge attraction for me, because I was like, I'm sick of hearing about price. Not that price isn't good; it's very important, but I'm not interested in trading things and trading crypto.
You're about the freedom and the new economy of it, right?
I'm about sovereignty for the people, and so that is really the whole attraction to this, because if the people are going to be have their own freedom, sovereignty, they need to have their own money, and it's not money owned by the state or anybody else. It literally comes down to that. If you're relying on somebody else's money and another place in between you, you're not really that free. You're kind of free, but you're not really, because they could turn you off at any second, So that's what this is really enables. It allows people to have take the power back and to transact in electronic cash for the first time, So, I mean, there's a lot to this. I can go on for days about this, but why don't we go ahead and tell me what your thoughts are, or any questions that you have.
So you went and you met Craig Wright, and you started to see that, and he was involved in he took the VSV from there. Is that correct?
Craig Wright.
And was it a fork?
Well,
I was
according to the Bitcoin protocol, there is a hard fork is required is part of the rules. That is what happens. But according to the Bitcoin BSV, I don't know if it's Bitcoin. So yeah, the website, it's actually it restored the original protocol. So Bitcoin SV is restored the Genesis protocol on February 4th of 2020. So at that point, there may have been a fork in 2018. I'm unclear on the technical nuance of that, of how it actually works. But according to the 2020 upgrade, the Bitcoin protocol was restored on BSV from all the way back from 2009 to one single chain. There's no more that's the original thing, the protocol that's been there. So there was a Genesis upgrade in February 2020 that happened. That has restored everything just from the very beginning of 2009. So now you got one single chain that's followed the white paper. And the key is it's all, there's a lot of factors here that are going involved. We could, talk about this case and what's going on here in a minute, but one of the important elements that people are missing is the regulations, the regulatory framework for all this. If you want to be involved in a short-term Ponzi scheme and all that, like I was in Luna, yeah, I had made, I was like, this is a great, I was like, is this a Ponzi scheme? I was like, it seemed like, I was like, it might be. I was like, I don't know. I was like, oh man, it went to zero. Oh, this is just, I got what I deserved at that point. So if you want to be involved in that sort of thing and you're not really too careful about regulation, that's the risk that you're facing. But if you're actually looking at the regulatory side, then you have to be concerned with, all right, is this a security?
Right.
Because if it's a security, look at what's going on with Binance, with Coinbase, with Kraken, with all these, with the Luna, Terra Luna. I mean, there's just
You're talking about their tokens, right? Look what's going on with their tokens.
Yeah, well, with the SEC, are suing them criminally, civilly. There's a lot of, there's a lot going on, and that's something that is a problem for those agencies, because they're not meeting what's the problem is that they're trying to sidestep the securities laws. That's what's going on. And the securities
because they
laws
have a bunch of coins that would, because they are selling coins that would constitute a security, right? That would classify as a security?
That the SEC is considering a security. And so you have to really be mindful of those things if you're looking at this in a long-term perspective. So yeah, there's certain requirements that have to be met in order to not be a security. And one of those, there has to be no central point of origin or control. No one else. So the problem with any other of these hobby projects, they're going to have a hard time meeting that.
Right.
While they may be a hobby project and somebody got very rich on it, that's the problem. Right. There's a central point of origin and control.
Right.
And so
and you're talking about pre-mining.
Any central point of origin and control. Think of Stellar, you got Jed McCaleb, central point of origin control, Roger Ver. Think of Ethereum, you got Vitalik Buterin, pre-mining and all these things. They all pre-mined all these tokens, and then just it's the central point of origin. So, with Bitcoin, what's different about it is that there was no central point of origin, and the creator, he issued notice and opportunity for 90 days for anybody to start the network. That was not by accident. This guy, the creator, is a freaking, a legal genius, because that is what's called notice and opportunity. It's a 90-day period. And you give somebody that amount of time in the world, and it has to be like the right people, the cryptographers, people who have the knowledge to do something like that.
Yeah, right.
They all had the opportunity
sneak it in the
to start
sewing
the
circle.
network.
Yeah.
Pardon?
You can't sneak it in the sewing circle.
No, you had to give notice to people who are qualified individuals to start the network, which was exactly on the mailing list from the cryptography mailing list that was provided at the time.
Correct.
So they all had the chance to start the network. No one did. And then on January, he started the network and started mining blocks.
And that was 2009, correct? 2009.
Yeah. And so then that first block, known as the Genesis block, it basically cemented it secured the entire industry. It's actually
secured the patent or the copyright, or now are we, because now
not the patents or the copyright, but it secured its stability of not being a security.
Okay.
it's secured the foundation for the regulatory framework to make it the first and only digital commodity.
And you're saying that the strategy that was used, that whoever released it knew that, or had
No,
enough
this was
foresight to
not
know
by
that this
accident.
was key.
This was
right?
definitely not by accident. This person, this Satoshi, let's just say Satoshi, he knew exactly the legal ramifications of what he was doing, because you know, well, I can't prove that, but it's obvious to anyone who knows the law a little bit. They can see that, because by him doing that and then cementing the Genesis block, the first block to be mined, that block can't move. And so if you notice, the people who don't understand, they're not familiar enough or haven't gone deep enough into this, they want him to move the keys on the Genesis block. Well, that would underpin the entire, that would underpin the entire industry, you know, because it all starts from that one block, everything. So that would underpin the whole industry. And now it would know it could potentially not be a security. It could potentially be a security. You got one point of control. One guy's moving around. He's selling his coins, you know. Now it totally changes things. So that Genesis block isn't going to move. It doesn't mean somebody can't prove the signature on it, but it's not going to move. And so according to that, I mean, there's where do you want to go with this? Because this is really an interest. I mean, for me, it's fascinating because of the strategy that's going on and how this is playing out. We could go over.
It's the strategies that interest me, and that you know, when you were talking about the securities and whether, you know, if it was created a security, it started sounding like you were crossing over into the copyright area, because now we're talking about who did create it and what's going on with the copyright issues. Because isn't that going to open Pandora's box?
Well, it sure could. So, all right, yeah. So let's go. There was in the copyright side. So there's back in 2018, or I'm sorry, let's go back even further. It was around right around 2013 when Dave Kleiman died. Craig Wright, he made a video. There's first of all, I'll give credit to these guys. Connor Murphy, he made a video called Craig Wright Timeline. So, you know, you could footnote that in this, or bookmark it there. So anybody who wants to really look at this in detail, Craig Wright Timeline, Connor Murphy, and he breaks all this down in detail. So I'll save the long story on it. But in there, he talks about, he directs people to around the 2013 video that Wright put out on his YouTube channel about Dave Kleiman's passing, and saying that he was his best friend. And it was this emotional, you know, thing about Dave. This is 2013, before any of this other stuff about Craig Wright, right? He was just nobody at that time.
Right.
And so he puts this out there that, you know, he died and he was very upset about it, very sad. So that he also emailed the Kleiman estate family stating, hey, your brother or your son and I created Bitcoin together. And, you know, I just want to send my regards, or whatever, along those lines. They responded back the next day saying, send us all the information you have about Dave Kleiman creating Bitcoin. I don't know what he responded to after that, but ultimately that started the what's called the Kleiman versus Wright case. They wanted, so according to that, now this is something that's really an important nuance that's not clearly talked about or understood online. It seems like, according to in that case, which went all the way to 2023, when the circuit court they upheld the trial determination that there was no partnership in starting Bitcoin. Now, what wasn't determined is who Satoshi was. However, at the outset of the case, if you read the complaint itself, what the complaint stipulates too is that Kleiman and Wright started Bitcoin. That's what's stipulated too. So people are missing that. They're thinking, well, you know, Wright didn't start Bitcoin. It wasn't determined. Okay. Well, that was at the outset, it was stipulated that the two parties started Bitcoin. That was the stipulation. Mm-hmm. The court then determined Kleiman had nothing to do with it. He was not in partnership with Wright. That was already determined by the jury.
Okay.
Kleiman was a hired contractor. Yes. He was writing papers, the court determined, and he helped with revisions, and they were best friends. But it was all right. That was determined. And they didn't determine the identity of Satoshi, but according to that actual outcome of the case, there wasn't anybody else.
Wow, that's interesting. I was under the impression that Craig Wright was determined to have been the opposite, that Craig Wright was determined to have been very early on the project and one of the very earliest developers, but determined that he wasn't Satoshi.
Well, there hasn't been a determination yet of the word Satoshi yet. So that hasn't officially been determined. But if you look at that case that's already been decided and appealed and upheld by the court, by the appellate court, you know, nobody else created Bitcoin but Wright.
Wow.
That's part of the stipulation because it was Kleiman Estate that was suing for all the Bitcoins.
Right.
So that's right before the court right now. So now that is the precedent that's now leading us into this big case. Now you got to think about in strategy wise, what's going on with this case. And there's some new information I can mention that just came out today that is super, interesting on the strategy. So
I get a scoop. Yeah.
it's all right. So this group of Silicon Valley. All right, you got to think about like what does Bitcoin actually do? What does the original protocol do, and who does it affect? And so you look at, well, it's going to take. I mean, the whole goal is it's the future of everything on the internet, but the idea is that it affects the payment industry the most. So if it's affecting the payment industry the most, these guys are, they've got to. It would be more likely than not that they would want to create some sort of an opposition, to that. So, all right, let me see all right. So basically if I can go into the COPA, there's a lot of different places we could go right now, but I'm just thinking
definitely go into the COPA suit.
Yeah. So the Crypto Open Patent Alliance, which is a group of Silicon Valley, conglomerate giant companies that are, that looks like it's started by Jack Dorsey of Square. It looks like he's the really the brains behind it. And it seems like their agenda is to keep the patents open and usable. Of course, with nChain in mind, because nChain is the 800-pound gorilla in the room. Now, do you know about nChain?
No.
Oh boy. Well, the reason reason that the Crypto Open Patent Alliance has started is because they obviously have some smart attorneys over there who realize that nChain is literally an 800-pound gorilla over the entire patent space and blockchain. And so everybody else is late to the party, but nChain. And so they say, oh, we want to get some patents. Oh my gosh, nChain's already cornered the entire market on every angle of blockchain patents. Okay, so, and I'm not talking about a few, I'm talking about 1,000 patents issued and over 4,000 applied for.
Is this, the only other person that I've heard talk about patents is Reggie Middleton. Is his?
He has one or two patents, which is also really, really important. He's just a small. Reggie Middleton is a small. He's a little fish in the pond. Absolutely. He's in there swimming, and he's got a right to those patents. According to the court, apparently. So. But then there's the 800-pound giant, enormous whale gorilla over everybody else, that nobody wants to talk about because it's too big and too scary, especially if you're in Silicon Valley, so they don't want you to know about nChain, so, yeah. And guess who's behind all the writing of all those patents?
Guess who's
behind writing of all the patents
that nChain that they want?
No, who's behind the brain behind writing all the patents at nChain?
Who?
Craig Wright. He's the chief strategist.
So Craig, okay, well, okay, so now you got me. So he was working with the Square guy?
Square guy is on the other side of the fence. They're on the COPA side.
Okay, that's where I got confused. Okay, so nChain versus COPA.
Well, nChain, the patent question is not before the court at this time. However, that's what the Crypto Open Patent Alliance is based on. Yeah. They came together because they want to keep the patents open.
Right.
That's not before the court, but that's their objective.
Right. Well, they obviously realized it all as they took the white paper and they took the open source code and started using it without patents in the first place, right? Doesn't the industry want everything to be open source so that they can just access it without paying royalties?
That seems to be what the Crypto Open Patent Alliance wants. Yeah.
Okay.
So that group came together, and now they went ahead and they found this one guy. He's just you consider him a nobody. You know how they've always had that phony nonsense about how everybody is Satoshi. Have you ever heard that nonsense? Everybody is Satoshi. Everybody. I'm serious. It's like a meme or something. Oh, everybody, and they wear the
Is that
hat
like
with
the open
thing on it,
source
the guy with the
idea?
face.
Like we can all
Nope.
use it?
Everybody is, except that one guy. Just not him. Everybody but him is
The guy who's full of crap.
yeah, he's full of it. Do not look at that man, whatever you do. And so if you, at the time, if you search Google at the very top, 2017 or whatever, you'd find out, oh, this guy's a fraud. And you just maybe move on if you didn't go any further.
Right.
And that's like the first they did a really good job at putting that all over the internet. So, but anyway, so this case is now coming forward all to a head, and they sue, let's see, the first claim I think was COPA that came forward, and they sued to basically for 3 claims. And that was to declare that Craig Wright is not the author of the white paper.
Okay.
That's the first prayer. The second prayer is that he doesn't have copyright over the white paper. And third, they're not in violation of the copyright. That's ultimately what the suit's about.
Because they were using the what they were calling open source software or technology and making money off of it without, and violating someone else's patent.
Potentially.
Or someone else's copyright.
Not the patent. The patent question is not before the court.
Okay.
It's just the copyright. And so that's the first claim. And then Wright countersued, and you basically to reverse the questions, determine, that I am the copyright holder, and that, you are in violation of these copyrights. And now that's actually bringing in another defendant called BTC Core at that time. Okay. So now the suits get really complicated. There's a bunch of defendants. All the BTC Core guys are brought into the case, and the court's now required to determine, is he the author of the white paper? Is he not? And is there a copyright? That was actually one of the important, really, nuances about this case that is very, some people should be really interested in, I hope. And that is the copyright part of the case. It already went out and he already lost on it. Okay. What happened was he asked to bring a copyright claim inside Craig Wright did inside the case. He lost on that and they threw it out.
Okay.
He appealed. And then the appellate court overturned the lower court already. That was on like a motion to dismiss procedure. So he did state a copyright claim, and that's going to be determined.
Wow.
And what is the effect of that? Is really the ramifications are massive. Now the COPA side, what their objective is they want to prove that it's so unlikely that this guy could possibly have been an author of the white paper, that he's a serial forger, a fraud. And even though none of these are all allegations.
Yeah, it's all character.
Well, a fraud it has to be determined by a court. Anybody uses the word fraud, that's just like a name calling, but anyway,
yeah,
it's got to be determined. So he hasn't been determined a fraud yet. None of these documents have been determined to be forged yet, but that's their approach. They've got 126 pages of links to different documents that they saying and files that they're saying he forged. And I was on a Twitter space listening in this morning, and here's the narrative. Yell as loud as you can, Craig Wright is a fraud, over everybody else. That's the narrative. And so people are literally, this is the yelling on one side of the Twitter space is a guy literally yelling at the top of his lungs, Craig Wright is a fraud. You guys are idiots. You're stupid, and name calling. And then the other side asking questions like, where is this determination? I mean, that all this stuff, where is the fraud determination by a court? Where is that? Everybody, and the response is everybody knows it. Everybody knows it. And the other side saying, where? Please point me to the ruling by the court. Where is that? And we have yet to see it, and that's because it's going to first before the court. It will be before the court next month for the first time. So, and they will possibly determine that. So here's the really the nuance that's going on right now. Now, if a couple things, if they determine that Wright is the author of the white paper, then they're going to go into the copyright claim, which is the BT against BTC core defendants. And at that point, it will determine if they're in violation of the copyright. If Wright's successful, okay, this is a worst case scenario for the BTC crowd. Then the court would issue an injunction, okay, and the miners and the nodes, which there's only a small amount of nodes. Did you know there's only
I heard that in your interview. I was really surprised to
Yeah.
hear that.
There's not that many nodes. It's
Yeah.
less than 30 or something. I don't know, maybe less than 20.
I was
So,
real surprised
it's
at
really, now miners, yes, but nodes, no. And so
Right.
these nodes are more likely than not going to follow the law, because if not, there are consequences to court orders and violations. So lawsuits. So, let's just assume if they do fall, if the court orders them not to use BTC, the court would order an injunction to the nodes and the BTC core to no longer use the name, meaning that where it says $40,000 Bitcoin, that
Yeah.
becomes, $40,000 altcoin, whatever.
Right.
And also potentially not even use the chain. It could be
Because they would owe
literal
so
slaughter,
much, because are
absolute-
they going to owe a lot of reparations?
No, it could. No, worst case scenario. I'm not saying this is going to happen. This is the worst. You got to look at the worst case scenario. If somebody's on the BT, I'm trying to put this as neutral as I can. I'm not telling them that this is going to happen, but people, they should have notice. Anybody's promoting BTC, they should really have notice.
Well,
You're holding a major risk. This is a time bomb.
In everything I hear, so if you're on Bloomberg, or if you're listening to regular news, or it's like news on BlackRock or any of the big investment companies, it's Bitcoin. That it's not determined. It's just Bitcoin and Bitcoin this. And I've been wondering just about that. What's going to happen if that happens? Is because I'm guessing when they say Bitcoin, they mean BTC.
They're probably referring to it as BTC, right? So that will be determined by this case. Is Bitcoin BTC? That's basically going to be determined by the copyright claim.
Mm-hmm.
And if it's successful on the right side, then it will no longer be Bitcoin. It'll be something else.
Mm-hmm.
Right?
They'll
So
have
that's
to change
a major
the BTC,
blow.
Major
blow.
So when they do their news broadcast, they'll have to say, yes, this company has been investing in Bitcoin.
They'll have to call it
or its
something
new
else.
coin, formerly known as Bitcoin.
Whatever they decide,
determine?
it's just not. It won't be allowed to be Bitcoin. It'll be something else.
Okay, and
that's
BSV
the worst case scenario.
BSV would be the new Bitcoin, or it would be able to be labeled Bitcoin. Well, it's not the new Bitcoin because it's the original block.
Yeah, it seems like that's a question I don't have an answer to as to what's going to happen if the word will change on the other side. I don't know. But that's just a potential worst case scenario. Now, the other side, if the right side's not successful, then he would be declared that he's not the author of the white paper. Okay. And that COPA is not, that there's no copyright on Wright's side, and COPA is not in violation of any copyright. That's what the outcome would be. Wow. So we have to think about that. Well, what's the upside and downside of those two things? What would the downside be on that? If that's determined, well, Wright wasn't the author. What would the downside be on that?
I don't see one, right? Because BSV is still a great chain. It doesn't matter.
Well, yeah, I think it would matter. It would matter. Because it would matter some. It probably wouldn't look so good if he lost. I guess it would be more of maybe a psychological thing, but it doesn't affect the fundamentals of anything. That's for
right.
Sure.
It's in businesses that are using, and people that are looking to build on it, they're most concerned about the blockchain, its strength, how usable it is. I'm not sure that it would have that big of an effect if he was determined not to be Satoshi, because Bitcoin, whether he's Satoshi or not, Bitcoin SV is already successful.
It's already pretty well. In a way, yeah. It's already got a lot of adoption.
Right.
So there's a couple of really important technical things here that are going on though, and that is, do you know what the SHA-256 means?
It means you can mine on your own personal computer.
Well, it's a form of, it's a form of, doing the mining. Like, so the Bitcoin chains, anything that's on the form of Bitcoin, they're on the SHA-256 protocol. That's the 2009 protocol with the longest track record. And that is important because so much industry has been built around it. Have you ever looked online and seen like the massive amount of mining farms?
No.
Huge. I'm talking like warehouses full of ant miners to the moon,
Oh yeah.
And so
Yeah.
those are all SHA-256 mining farms,
Okay.
which are, it's unbelievable when you see how massive it is, So that being said, it's important to note that the miners are, I think we can agree that they're after really just one thing, and that's the bottom line. They're
Right.
just trying to make a profit. So
yeah, they'll switch in a minute.
what's most profitable? Now, if you
Right.
look at CoinDance right now, you'll see that within less than 1%, it's more profitable to mine BTC than BSV. Less than 1%.
Wow. Already.
And nothing's even happened yet. Just a little change will throw that off. As soon as it's over a certain percentage, there's miners going to see that. Okay.
Yeah.
This is a very important, that no one can control this part of it. Even the court can't control this. Even if he loses the court, nobody can control this side of it. And this is what's just called it's just capitalism.
Right.
So that's a really important nuance that is, building up right now.
Yeah. Well, because I'm totally for freedom of choice, especially if there's multiple choices that are freedom minded or decentralized.
So here's the latest what's going on right now. Wright just announced, this is like he just came out today, that he announced a settlement. So I wanted to a settlement offer. So I went into the Twitter space, on one of the Twitter spaces on Twitter today to listen in to see about what was going on. And that's where I heard the guy yelling at the top of his lungs, Craig Wright is a fraud. Okay. And I listened as loud as I could. I just couldn't stop him. I'm like, I'm a voice of reason. I would absolutely entertain any sort of valid legal arguments. Like, I'm all about it, but you can't, but by just showing that somebody has found documents on the internet and said they're a fraud, and now it's before the court, that's still not determined. That's just, due process hasn't happened yet. So, maybe, we don't know. But you can't say that that's just not been determined. So I have a hard time listening to that line of reasoning where there's been yet to due process hasn't happened. So I'm listening to this space and they're talking about, well, the settlement offers coming forward. Now the other side, I guess this is the side of the COPA side. They're on there saying, well, only a weak person would put a settlement offer in. He obviously realizes he's a fraud. So he's trying to settle. Only a loser, this is their narrative. So I'm thinking, okay, it doesn't seem like my experience at all. You always want to put a settlement offer in before trial. That's like almost like mandatory. Every party, you always put a settlement. If you're not putting a settlement offer in before trial, then there's something wrong with the procedures, So he put his settlement offer in. That was today. Now it actually is pretty, good for the other side because he's willing. It says he's willing to completely vacate all of his copyright claims. No more copyright claims, meaning that they will not be in violation of the copyright. It's really a pretty generous offer. There's some nuances to it that it looks like they would be required to no longer use the name Bitcoin anymore. That seems to be part of the offer.
Okay.
So they would have to just realize they're not going to use the name at Bitcoin anymore. And you guys are no longer, he also refers to in the offer, the wording of the offer, I'd have to pull it up exactly. He says that I, Satoshi. So it would also, if they agree to the offer, it was non-negotiable, they would be agreeing that he's Satoshi and then they're not allowed to use Bitcoin. And there's no further damages. There's no further trial. So we'll see. I think they've got till the 31st to decide if they want to take that or not. And then if not,
now, yeah, so he would get the same outcome, except for he wouldn't get retribution for, reparations for
Correct.
them stealing it for all that time. So
Yep.
he's basically saying, hey, here's the settlement. You don't have to pay for all this, back whatever you owe. And then, but we arrive at the same conclusion.
Yeah, which is
But they're
just a
just
basic,
hoping that they
it's
have the
really,
courts on
if you,
their side, their influence,
yeah,
and that
if you
they
think about it, it's
can,
not that bad on their side. All they got to do is basically agree that he's Satoshi and they're not allowed to use Bitcoin. They can still
Yeah.
they can literally, he's completely letting them, you still operate. It's capitalism. You
Yeah.
guys operate, and he applauds it in the offer.
Can they get
applaud what
shut
you're
down
doing.
if he wins?
They will not. Yes, that's
Okay.
see, that's the bad part for them is
The
if
chance
they
they're
don't take
taking.
that offer and he wins, then it's like the hammer could drop on him with the injunction and
Wow.
shut the whole thing down. So it's a kind of a catch-20. It's a risky move to not take the offer. It's a bold move. We'll see. There's so much speculation on what's going on. Some people are saying, "Oh, well, Craig Wright is a Fed," and the whole thing, and it's all there's so much speculation. It's really, on this whole thing, it's really how it's going to play out. But it's probably the most exciting case, I think, and most important case of our future, at least that I'm aware of. So if we care about our own sovereign money.
Yeah, no doubt. Well, these big firms like Vanguard and BlackRock, and they're investing in BTC. How are they looking at this? Are they looking at like there's going to be a huge risk, or big whales even, or even a little guy saying all I have is Bitcoin BTC? What's the risk for those people? Are they going to have
Well,
to
the risk is set
transition
out.
it? Are they going to have to sell it for BSV? Is it going to drop in price? What's your
No.
speculation?
Well, the risk is set out pretty well inside the Coinbase initial offering when they went for the IPO. And they warned that there was an innate risk in holding the BTC because if it says that if for whatever, some possibility that Satoshi were to come forward and claim the rights of the copyright and then potentially liquidate, the BTC, the price, it could cause a massive, pretty much wipeout of everything, so.
Just because the price.
That's kind of what's happening right now.
Just because of the price.
The
wipeout of price.
It would be a hyper Bitcoinization. It would just happen in an instant, because it's actually controlled by the miners.
Mm-hmm.
As soon as, you got to think about it like, what is an example of this? Luna. I mean, okay, when I was involved in Luna, it was literally, I was sitting there watching this thing, and all of a sudden it went from 1-to-1 on UST to 20 cents. Now at 20 cents, I'm thinking, I'm not selling for 20 cents.
Right.
It's going to go back up.
Right.
But the panic was so strong that everybody sold it, went to 1 cent, went to 0. So with this, it's not even the selling, it's the miners. The miners in this case, see, Luna, there's no miners or anything. They're just doing whatever they're doing. But with Bitcoin, there's miners. And so the miners are now deciding, whoa, it's so much more profitable. I'm out of here. I'm going on this chain. I'm mining BSV. And then it just happens. It's called hyper Bitcoinization. It's this is something that people aren't really, familiar with. They don't think, oh, it's going to take time. It's not going to take time. It may be years before it happens. We don't know, but it will just happen overnight.
I thought that hyper Bitcoinization was, and correct me, I thought that hyper Bitcoinization was like something white swan or black swan to the dollar, and everybody had to use Bitcoin. And so it became really valuable.
It's probably a better description as to what Daniel Krawitz wrote about hyper Bitcoinization. It's more about the old money coming in and Bitcoin absorbing it. Yeah, you're right. It's bad. It's a bad description the way I used it. So I apologize and take that back. But ultimately,
if the miners quit using Bitcoin, how is it going to be hyper Bitcoinization? Isn't Bitcoin going to lose value in the marketplace?
No, Bitcoin would gain value. It's just the confusion on what Bitcoin is. That's the confusion. People
once it's determined.
People who are thinking that BTC is Bitcoin.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's the problem.
Yeah.
If they think that BTC is Bitcoin, there's a big problem.
What do I tell them?
Ultimate risk, So
yeah, are they going to be trying to trade it for BSV?
How?
Or something else?
How? It's so hard to do. If you're not already in, you can't it's too late. You can't even buy BSV. Where are you even going to buy it? Right. I mean, it's like, it's been so outcast everywhere. Every exchange is already Coinbase. They put that thing out. This month. Anybody on our BTC BSV is banned. We're liquidating everything, because they're all on the opposing side in the lawsuit. So
are they? Yeah, right. And they have their own problems.
If it's such a scam, okay, why is it, if BSV and Craig Wright and all, it's such a big scam, then why are they still holding, these exchanges still offering Luna when that has officially been declared a scam by the courts? But BSV and Craig Wright where's the determination by the courts? It's not there yet. So there's just a lot of red flags, Shanna, that, hopefully we could direct people to. I would say the Bitcoin Craig Wright timeline is a really good video by Connor Murphy. That links all this history together in a doc, like very good 1 hour documentary type video. It's a little podcast they did. And, it really, I always just suggest everybody just have one, try to get one, do the best to try to get one, because in the future, it is I would say a very strong, okay, even let's just say all the other stuff we talked about, the court case and all that stuff outside, forget all that.
Right.
In the future, we need an alternate. Do you agree that there's a problem with inflation?
Yes.
Okay. Of course there is. That's a ridiculous question, right? So,
yeah.
So in the future, inflation is probably not going to get any better, right?
Right.
It's one of those things that it doesn't really get better. I don't know how they're going to make it better. I don't know.
Well, the dollar's not long for this world. The banks have all transitioned into tech companies themselves. The big major banks, they're now considering themselves tech companies.
Yeah. How are they
going to, the dollar isn't long for this world either way.
So if the dollars are long, that something else is going to come around, right? So, correct. It'll be, let's say it's whatever, the next thing they want to make. Well, we can still have the chance to transact electronically with electronic cash where we don't need them. And that's why by having just one Bitcoin Satoshi Vision, in the near future, we could transact in Satoshi. We could do it now, okay? Yeah. But we could transact in Satoshis where there's 100 million Satoshis in one Bitcoin Satoshi Vision. So think about it. You have one, now you got 100 million Satoshis to transact in. You know how much the transaction fees right now are to send one Bitcoin BSV?
How much?
I think it's like literally a few Satoshis, which is less than like 1,000th of a cent.
Yeah. Oh.
It's pure electronic cash, pure cash. It's instant. We could do it right now. You'd see like, oh, it shows up instantly anywhere in the world. You hear the phone beep on, oh my gosh. It's pure cash. This is a problem. I got friends who right now, even everybody has. I mean, my buddy, he gets shut down by his banks. He has judgments against him and he can't get a bank account. PayPal confiscates his money. It's like, how's a guy supposed to live his life?
Yeah. Kanye, your friend Kanye.
Yeah. But with Bitcoin, he can actually transact and have not have to just carry around silver coins.
Right. If it's BTC, then there's, then that statement is not true, right? That's up for that. There's it's in jeopardy if it's BTC.
Yeah.
All the people that have gotten their BTC to hedge the system,
yeah,
are in for a really rude awakening if the whole thing just shuts down.
Well, let's hope that doesn't happen. I think that's why the purpose of this settlement offer today is actually very good faith. I hope I'm coming across as a neutral party. I'm not trying to come off as a Craig Wright. Like that's not my. If I am, I apologize. That's not what I'm trying to do here.
No, you don't.
But in reading the offer, it would be a very peaceful, long-term way where there doesn't have to be an immediate slam. That would be a nice long-term, slow progression. So hopefully they will take that offer, because if they do, then, we can ride off to the sunset in a nice, slow way. There isn't going to be a massive, because if BTC goes away overnight, that's going to hurt a lot of people. It
hurts BSV as well, because now you have the population having no faith. They already have no faith in crypto.
Yeah. It's going to hurt everybody. So we don't want that to, I mean, that's why he put this offer. He doesn't want that to happen. Now, the other side saying, well, he has no, hey, they saying he doesn't have a right. He has no, he's in the court case. He has the right to make that offer. I can't see any other grounds for him not to make that offer. We'll see if they take it.
Oh, wow.
It's
so we're looking at the end of the month. What's the date that they are have
February
to
6th
answer?
is the start of the trial. He's going to be on the stand for a total of 6 days. They're starting with him.
Oh, wow.
So, I mean, all the people who are on the other side, the Craig Wright is a fraud side, they'll finally get to see him up on the stand. And he's been on the stand before, but there's never been a determination like this to question him. Hey, did you forge this document? Did you make this false evidence? These types of questions will be going on. Now,
are they going to live stream it? Will we be able to watch it or
no,
just get the
I don't know
transcript?
yet. I'm going to meet with CoinGeek within like the next week or so. I have to find out what day, and we're right before the trial starts. I'll get all those questions answered.
Okay.
And it's definitely, but you got to ask yourself, if this guy is holding, now this is a fact. We verified that he's holding 34 master's degrees.
Craig Wright.
Yeah.
Wow.
Okay. He's a doctorate in law, meaning that he's a Juris Doctorate in law, went to law school. Okay. He's a PhD in religion, which would be where he's completely studied the Bible inside and out and got a PhD in it, a doctorate in it. So his pedigree, now he's, his background is the top, this I don't think is disputable. He's the top forensic, I think it's forensic computer or computer science and cryptography expert in the world. So I believe he's the top, number one.
Wow.
So
never heard that.
Well, this is just according to his past.
Even the BSV marketing bros never told me that.
This is according to his past history, like his actual, what he's done. And so it's, you got to really think like, so you're telling me that some hackers didn't get in and possibly create a bunch of false evidence and try to bring it to the court. You're saying that this guy who's done this his whole life, who's testified in court cases his whole life as a forensic expert and analysis and gone in and audited companies like this inside. You're telling me all of a sudden he had a change of heart. Now he's a serial fraudster.
Yeah.
I mean, sure would be a big time change in his personality, right? What is he, I guess the goal is, okay, this is a question. What does he get? What's the benefit? And this is something that I guess is a really important. What is the benefit for him to do that? And there is something that could be gained potentially, but it wouldn't be short-term. Have you thought about that?
Well, the benefit of him lying about being Satoshi and owning the copyrights.
What's he get out of it?
Yeah, that's that.
Nothing out of this particular case. I don't think he would actually get like money out of this, because you still have to have the private keys to get those coins.
Exactly.
So that's not going to come from this case. Like they can't say, oh, those coins are yours. Get them. Have a nice, that's not being determined.
Right. And I'm guessing that anybody who is Satoshi doesn't, when they set up the Genesis block and the coins that are in it, they knew that they wouldn't have to rely on them, that they weren't living off of them, right? I'm guessing that whoever is Satoshi is wealthy enough to not have to scam or even use those, or I don't know. Just seems like you'd have to be really desperate to want to pull something like that off.
It would sure be a desperate scam, right? This would be a really, if this is pulled off to be a scam by Wright, I'll tell you, it's gonna.
This is going way further, because there was, I can't remember his name and I don't want to throw anybody into the bus, but I met another guy who claimed to be Satoshi Nakamoto, very interesting man. And obviously, and he worked on the project early. And I think his whole shtick was just the fame, the notoriety and the fame. I'm the real Satoshi. It was his marketing ploy. It was his shtick, and I always kind of compared Craig Wright to him because that was my experience of someone on the very original production team of Bitcoin. So, when I met him in person, I thought it was pretty obvious that he was a self-marketer. You might know who I'm talking about. I'm glad I can't remember his name.
And now imagine if you did all these court cases. Now you're before the high court and you've got this pedigree with all these, this educational pedigree.
Right.
I really, I have to boldly say that he's the most educated man of all time in human history.
Wow.
There's nobody that's had that many master's degrees. I don't think I think we could look, and this has never been this type of, no one's ever been that educated.
I would not accept that from anybody but you, Gavin. I would, you know what I mean? Because, you know, I've looked into some very, very educated people, and I know who you know, and I would not accept that from anybody but you.
34.
Yeah.
You know how serious that is?
Wow.
Doctorates, PhD. I mean, it's like, so on the Satoshi, on the Craig Wright timeline, there's a video on there, which you can watch, where he's called out saying, oh, he's a liar. He doesn't have any of these master's degrees, right? And this is in Bern, Switzerland. And you can watch it's actually a seminar, like a Bitcoin seminar. And they made him, not made him, but he actually volunteered to bring in all his degrees in a wheelbarrow. And they brought him in to one of these Bitcoin, oh, Craig Wright's a fraud event type of thing. Oh, he's a fraud. He's a scam. He doesn't have any degrees. So he actually wheeled them all in at this event in Switzerland, you know, and like brings them into the crowd. And so there's, it's definitely, you know, I don't know. It would be a pretty elaborate scam. A lot to lose, I would think, if you did that. But
yeah,
hey, we'll see how it plays out. Really.
Oh my gosh, how exciting!
Yeah, it's pretty exciting to come about. There is a big, you know, for you, you know, or anybody else who wants to. There is you know, the best thing is to like just go to one of these big events. I mean, there's the London Blockchain Conference in Dubai, or no, it's in London in May, at the end of May, and just meet everybody, you know, see what this is all about, you know, and it's, you know, I've been, like I said, a couple years now, and seeing the industry, when you actually meet the companies and you meet the enterprise level adoption of where this is going, just to put this into perspective, one of the companies of how big this is. One of the companies is owned by one of the companies building on Bitcoin is owned by a Fortune. I'm sorry, it's a CEO of a Fortune 100 company. His name is Richard something. He used to be with nChain. He's building what's called the derivatives market on Bitcoin. You know what derivatives are? It's the large, you know, if you watch the movie, the documentary, The Great Taking, he goes really into the derivatives market and breaks it all down. It's this big, giant, Bix Weir talks about it. It's this giant, you know, it's all the securities being traded in the background by the banks. It's like a super high stakes casino.
It's bets on the actual asset, right? Right.
Yeah, exactly. Okay. Which is it's the biggest market in the world, undisputably. So that entire market is being built on Bitcoin by a Fortune 100 CEO. This is not like some little hobby project.
And being built on BTC.
When I say Bitcoin, I mean BSV. Not okay. BTC is just for the first time being exposed to allowing things to be built on in a very limited scope. Scrypt is just now basically made that even possible. So they're just basically starting. But this stuff has been going on BSV for years, right? So now this is happening where what's happening is all the data. The problem with that, like a derivatives industry, is they don't have a way to make honest transactions, audit every transaction. If there's all these high frequency trades going on, how can one like Bank of America know that JP Morgan was honest on its trade 100%? I don't think they can. But with the adoption on Bitcoin, you know, while it's happening, they'll be able to audit all the transactions in real time on chain. Right. You know, so that's something that's being done.
Will the transaction just kick out the transaction if it'll be audited while it's transacting?
No, it wouldn't kick it out, but it just makes it an auditable ledger, public ledger for any of their auditors to look at. Okay. So you could see, oh, this is what happened on the transaction. We were paid this. You were paid this. There's no cheating going on. Right. And this is really where where things are going with Bitcoin. Is it just creates a complete honest ledger for everybody, for the entire world, total transparency. Imagine in the county levels, if we could just see every dollar coming and going. Wouldn't that be great? Who wouldn't want to see what's going on with the county's retirement funds? Is it all honest? What are the courts doing? You know, are the courts, the money they get in, are they are they doing anything in the background? Are they trading securities in the background? Like, let's get some honesty and transparency and know for sure.
You're talking about a whole new system. I mean, this creates accountability, which creates a new system because we do not have accountability in our system now.
And And can that be done on a private hobby blockchain?
Oh, like a hobby, like as in something that like something like
Stealth,
an ERC20 token? Is that what you're talking about?
Ripple, for
No.
example.
What's
I
that?
mean, how can we have any transparency on Ripple? You know,
Right, exactly. Yeah, exactly.
how can we have any accountability with Ethereum, with limited growth? You know,
I was
and
under the impression that they wanted to use Ripple because they could keep on with
well,
their same
they probably,
system.
I guess the existing status quo probably would like to use Ripple.
Right.
Yeah,
Right. Do you
they
think the
probably would.
existing status
They
quo is
don't
very
want they definitely don't want to use Bitcoin. It's too much transparency, public
right?
accountability, right? So
Right.
it's we have to, if by us getting the word out there, you know, at some point it's just a matter of, oh, okay, well, I guess we'll use Bitcoin because that's what the people want to use.
Yeah.
I mean,
Well,
that's
you
really
know they
the
have a contingency. They know that
ultimate
there's a
goal.
plan. You know what I mean? And you've seen in some of the papers like quantum.gov talks about these type of moving on to these type of chains, and there's been legislation, and I think a lot of it was um oh gosh, what was it called? It went along with the quantum.gov that came out in 2020, and it outlined putting the system on something like this.
Okay, are you talking about some of the executive orders?
Yeah,
Okay,
yeah.
yeah, the executive orders talking about some transparency. Yeah, so it hasn't been determined yet. What it seems like a lot of these governments are. No, let me just, you know, bring this point up and we can wind down with this. This is something that, you know, as another part of the end game strategy of overall, because you got to think that there's some brilliant guy, super master chess player here, but you know, obviously none of this stuff's happening by accident. So the other angle, which we haven't even talked about, really just touched on briefly, is the patents, okay, and the regulatory framework. Now, who cares about regulatory framework? Well, regulators care about patents and regulatory framework, not the little guy just doing a trading in his. They don't care about that. But when regulators want to build regulated blockchains, what do? They look and see, well, what's going on with all the regulation on it? What patents have been issued? Where are we? And that once they hire their development teams, they start to realize, okay, we want to build a blockchain, let's say in a country. And this has already happened in lots of countries already. You know, I think it's one of the leading countries I would say is in the Middle East. I don't know if it's Dubai or Pakistan. I believe it's Pakistan and the Philippines are two of the leading countries have already come to this conclusion where they want to build a blockchain and they realize they're at this regulatory stop with nChain. So they are not, if they, you know, they can't do a legal project without being in patent violation. So nChain basically says, no, you can use Bitcoin, use it. It's free to use. It's open source. Just use it. Just you're not in patent violation. Go build all you want. That's what it's for. Just don't go out and try to build something else to copy it, you know, or if you do, you pay us a licensing fee, you know. So that's all that it's about. And so that's you know, coming out. There hasn't been any court cases on it yet, but that regulatory framework is the other end game. And you know, Ethereum. When I was at the Dubai conference, Craig, you know, Satoshi came up on stage and he issued a notice to the Ethereum developers, and he says, "Hey, you know, we're not going to end you." It was a bold statement, but he says, we don't want Ethereum to go away. We don't want to hurt all the little guys. We've decided to build Ethereum on Bitcoin so that everybody can just the Solidity developers can write their code onto Bitcoin using what's called scrypt now, and this transpiler with one line of code. And so now all the Ethereum projects can be used and built on Bitcoin for a fraction of a cent. He gave him notice. He said, just do this, and you know, you can keep trading your Ethereum, doing your stuff. It's all on Bitcoin. Now, if you don't do
a
that,
lot of little guys have built on ERC20. I built a couple ERC20.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And then you realize that, oh, well, you know, to send $50 in UST, it's going to cost you 62. You know, so you're like, this is just too expensive to transact in, you know. So now all that can be with one line of code, can be built on Bitcoin. It's called scrypt. So he gave him notice that if they do not merge over, okay, that's when they will begin the patent litigation. That's like the final move of this puzzle, which is still playing out, you know, in this long-term plan. So it's definitely a whole new world. And the IPv6 aspect is still coming, where they've got these, do you know about IPv6?
I don't.
Like everything, IPv6 is a way to log web addresses. So like right now, your phone, your computer, all have web addresses, but in the future, IPv6 in some places right now, every single device could have a web address to make it yours, or you want to track it. Now, you don't have to, but if you want to register,
Are
whatever
you
little
talking about
device, so
trusted
you could
hardware?
identify it.
You're talking about
It's a web
using the trusted
address.
hardware?
I don't know if it's not hardware. It's somehow, it's an expanded web address. So right now, IPv4 has a limited amount of web addresses. IPv6 expands it to this giant amount of web addresses. Now, the guys who designed IPv6 in the 90s, it's been in the works for 30 years. They're working closely in the inner workings of Bitcoin BSV. I mean, that's public knowledge. They've been at all the conferences. So they're working together to bridge this new internet of the what's called the bit side of Bitcoin, the bit side for the future. Okay. We've only known about this coin trading stuff, coin trading. That's all we've ever heard about. But the bit side of Bitcoin has all been developed for the last, basically the last 5 or 6 years since BSV was revived. The original Bitcoin protocol. So, hey, it seems like we covered a lot of groundwork there.
Thank you so much. Yeah, I'll have to schedule again for another interview and talk to you more about. I'd love to ask you questions about, because I know you were a top salesman, and of course my colleagues in my school are doing a lot of sales, ethical sales conversations and teaching and other successful, life enrichment things. And
I mean, with sales, it's like, I loved giving talks on sales, like, cause I would, when I was at AmeriQuest, I was a number one in sales in the company nationwide, so like, they'd always have me give talks to the sales as come in, or, I'd go into another branch and give a talk, and I love doing that. And I would give the similar talk. I mean, it comes down to a few things. One of the background is if you looked at the numbers that I did, I raised more revenue. So yeah, I charged more for the services, but I provided more value. And one of the simple ways that anybody could do this by is an easy thing that anybody can do in sales is always, and I would tell people this all the customers, I would say, but I'm going to putting myself in your shoes. You should never, ever, ever have to call me. If you're calling me, then I'm not doing something right. I'm obviously dropping the ball. So you can count on me, because we would call. I mean, at that time, maybe you could probably do email now, but I will call you every day or every other day, whatever the program was, and update you with what's going on. And I'll leave you a message if you're not there. If there's no update, I'll just let you know. And people love that so much, that habit, because all the other salespeople, they were chasing him. They were, hey, where's John? He's out to lunch. He's busy. He's not calling me back. It's
yeah.
It's like just bad ethics.
You're touching on a big block that I've run into. And one of the things that really motivated me to start this program with Richard Grove was that I have a hard time making the second phone call, even like you, I have a hard time keeping up with relationships, because I feel like if I were to call, I would be imposing, or maybe they don't want to talk to me. I don't know. I've always had such a gap in between, coming from insecurity of, I want to insert myself into the situation, but I don't know. I've always come up against a block when it comes to taking the next step. And so that even gives me an anxiety, because I'm like, yeah, that sounds so great. And I like the way you word it too, though. Hey, I'll even being upfront with it. I'll just keep up with you. I'll check in every now and then, and I'll take care of these things so you don't have to worry.
So, yeah. Setting the expectations on the front end. Here's what you can expect. Yeah. Then delivering it. That's, I mean, it's really that simple. Here's what you can expect, and then delivering on it. So there's no misunderstanding. And if people, you do that for people, you're there for people, you're available if necessary, but even better, you're more available where like I'm contacting them and they don't have to contact me and wondering, hey, what's going on with this this loan or this deal? What's happening? Why isn't it done yet? Why haven't you finished this yet? You know, that should never happen. So that's a super fun topic we can talk about some other time. I love discussing that. The sales
Yeah.
background is the freaking best, you know. So, oh,
We'll put together a series of questions for you and make it a more technical interview and we'll talk about your sales guru-ness.
hey, thank you. You know, it's one of the books is Magic of Thinking Big. You know, Magic of Thinking Big is a key book. And so that is like a 1954, 19, book or so. And it just really breaks down like the thinking process that's needed. So,
Yeah.
and one of the, I'm trying to think one of the best stories here from that book to leave you with, but it really, it helps to develop and change the thinking pattern when you're going into a situation and ultimately how can I add value to the situation? How can I improve the situation? How can I add good emotions into it and not just take, that's really the fundamental of it. How can I add something to it? Even if it's just positive emotions like you do, like that's a huge benefit. You're adding it without even trying to, it's just natural. You're adding value naturally by giving good emotions.
Thank you.
And
Thank you
another
so much.
person, they're thinking, what's in it for me? What's in it for me? Me. And so that comes off real quick in any sales environment, so
No doubt.
keep up the positive vibes and all the good emotions.
Thanks. Well, I love this. I love this format and being able to add value to other people. I capture the value that we had this last hour and share it with other people. I think it's a really special thing that you're doing. I see you. I don't see you making any money. Like, are you making money with your YouTube channel and all this output and this investment that you're doing with people? How is that returning to you? Is it,
So
I mean, are you like affiliated or, I mean, what's your shtick?
I've made zero money from YouTube and I've monetized zero videos. I've monetized and I've actually brought in zero clients. So not that I wouldn't applaud that. I think it's a great platform for doing that. That's just not been my and I really want to take that away that I'm not like, that's not that I'm not into that. Money is a good thing. Should always be, open to receiving. But my intention is really to make it like more of a labor of love. And it's more of a lesson to myself in a way, keeping me on point and keeping me honest. And then eventually, there's a valuable brand behind it, but that's a long-term process.
Are you the brand or are you going to be the brand?
That's the brand. I mean, well, hopefully that people can also maybe learn from that, that when you're building a brand, you always want to build your brand. That's the focus. When you start to build another brand, like, oh, I'm going to build Simmons, all these other names, they come and go. And, you built this great brand and it went away. The company died. So by focusing on building your brand, who you are, now it's a long-term thing.
Yeah.
But then you got to really stand behind it. And, that's why you don't want to be getting involved. You never saw me one time talking about Terra Luna ever. I never once did I ever talk about it. I was involved. I was in it, but I was like, this might be a scam, I would never talk about something, if it was, I'm putting myself out there,
Right. And you're very influential and a lot of people, you take your word very highly, respect your word very highly.
It took a long time before I even wanted to come out and talk about Bitcoin, SV at all. So it was not just a overnight thing. This is years and years and years. So hopefully we can have sovereign money right now and people can start using it. More people that have it. I mean, oh my gosh, it's going to help so much. Yeah. That's one thing is that I do have, it's Gavin Mehl at handcash.io is Bitcoin Satoshi Vision tips. If you want to send anything there, Gavin Mehl at handcash.io. That's like just a hand cash wallet for people who have Bitcoin right now, Bitcoin SV. So that's it. Other than that, we're just freaking going straight to the top, Shanna, straight to the top.
Awesome.
Yeah.
Well, thank you so much, Gavin. I can testify that the things that you are saying are true, and you're a very integral
Well, thank
man,
you.
and you have a heart for people that doesn't ask for anything in return. And I just hope that God uses me to bless you in your life when the time is right as well. And I thank you
Thank
so
you.
much for what you're doing to the community. And I see you having a lot of like disciples, or I know you do masterminds and things like that. And I think you're a really great person to reach out to and consult with. So if anybody's watching this, Gavin is very approachable and available, and definitely a great person to seek advice from.
Thank you. Thank you. There's a lot more to come. Well, thank you for having
Amen.
me, Shanna. I'll see you
Absolutely.
at the top.
All right.